Guys, I've told my horror story before with S Corp clients, and how do you know what reasonable comp is? My horror story is when they went after that CPA who was a friend of mine for $125,000, arguing that he knew and that he knew better and that he should have made sure his clients took reasonable comp. I'm a huge fan of RC reports. RC reports, it's about $1,400 a year. We're charging the S corps that come to us under audit $750 a piece. We'll probably make between $10,000 and $20,000 with RC reports. But if you have S corp or C corp clients, they have to each year get a report, and the report is as simple as possible. RC Reports has a huge database of businesses. It will give you a report that you can rely on. And so far, to date, when we produce that report, not a single auditor has challenged it. The critical thing right now is for your clients to get that report to support the number they're taking on the return that you're taking on that return that you're signing. Best way to do it, RC Reports. Go check it out. Okay, you can find them. It's trn.rcreports.com. Again, trn.rcreports.com. Go there, you'll save $100. It will change your practice, create an annuity stream for you, and bulletproof your clients' corporate returns. The Tax Rep podcast is now proudly partnered with Nice Job, the experts in reputation marketing. Reviews are so important for attracting new clients. Before Nice Job, I would ask people to leave reviews, but they would usually forget, and I didn't have a way to stay on top and remember to follow up with them. That's where Nice Job comes in. Their smart follow-up campaign recognizes who hasn't left a review yet and automatically sends carefully timed reminders that can increase your chances of getting a review by 300%. I tried Nice Job for Tax Rep, and it's been a game changer. We added 33 five-star reviews in our first month, and our Google business profile is like a magnet for new customers. You can try Nice Job for free for 14 days and get 50% off your first 3 months by visiting nicejob.grsm.io/taxrep. nicejob.grsm.io/taxrep. I'm going to put a link in the description of the podcast. Try it. It will be a game changer for your business as well. How do I manage my tax rep practice? How do I get transcripts? How do I track what is going on with the IRS with every single one of my client cases? How do we complete the offer forms, the powers of attorney, everything? We use Tax Help software. Tax Help software is the cornerstone of our practice. We use it for its intelligent ordering. Every single night, it will update the transcripts on our clients, so we will see things happen long before those letters even go to the mail. We can then, react. We can let the client know. We can get all the transcripts we need to determine what our client's best options are, when is the debt going to expire, and we can fill in all of the IRS forms and get them filed accurately, the analysis done correctly. If you're interested in giving it a test, go to taxhelpsoftware.com, use promo code TAXREPTRIAL, all one word, all caps. You'll get a free 2-week trial. Again, that's taxhelpsoftware.com, TAXREPTRIAL, all caps, for a free 2-week trial. If you love it and want to buy it, use TAXREP10, capital, all caps, TAXREP10, TAXREP10, all caps, one word. You'll save 10% on your purchase. It will be the engine that runs your tax rep practice, just like it's what we use for ours. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining us on this week's Tax Rep Network podcast. I'm Eric Green. I'm joined today from my friends from Ignition. Jennie and Matt are here, and we've done a lot actually together in terms of webinars and other training. I think this is very timely, and the reason is we're still several weeks out from tax season. There's still an opportunity, if you've not automated your onboarding process, to do that. And so I think that and we're doing a webinar next Monday. We'll get into that a little bit later. The timing of this is perfect because, and just as background, one of my biggest frustrations, we get lots and lots of calls for, especially now with the IRS ramping up, we get lots of calls. I have a tax problem. I haven't filed, whatever. So what happens is they get to Nicole, my assistant, and Nicole does sort of the intake. Basically, what is it? How much is it? And is this person crazy? We try to weed those people out. Anyway, we have the notes. We will then send them something saying, hey, great to talk to you. Yes, we can help you. Here's our, consulting agreement. I don't know about the rest of you listening, but for me, an hour later, I've forgotten about that. We're busy. I've moved on. At the end of the year, we would have all of these notes, 30, 25, 35, however many it was, who had called, we could help, and they never signed and came in. We never followed up. I don't have to worry about that anymore, right? Because Ignition does that automatically. It does a lot of other things too, which we'll get into, but the automation of onboarding will save you time. You will actually get more money. In the last year, we've gone from, say, roughly 30 of those sorts of people that never came back to 3. That's 27 more cases at an average fee of around $8,500. It's $200,000 that we were leaving on the table, that we're not leaving on the table anymore. So with no further ado, guys, thank you for doing this. There's a lot going on, actually. We have ProConnect. We've got templates. Right. I don't even know where to begin. So, Jennie, where do we begin?
Oh, my goodness. Right. First of all the fellow taxpayers that are taxpayers. Yes, we're all taxpayers, tax preparers. My goodness. New Year's resolution was cutting back on coffee, Eric, and it is not working out well for me. Met many of you at NATP and several of Eric's events. So hello. Being a practice owner myself certainly understands how preparing is so much easier before the storm hits. And leveraging technology before people is something I've implemented in my firm. And with some of the customer calls, Kanas, feel free to chime in here too. Like some of the customer calls we're observing is, I don't have an admin now, or I don't have enough people. And so leveraging technology to do those reminders, like, heck, I have to write everything down now too, Eric. Like, I can't remember Mr. Smith. Literally, we have a taxpayer that just came to our firm who's 8 years behind. It happens, right? We're not this happens. I could easily forget about that. But if my team uses a template, maybe it's Eric's templates that we have there, or Dawn's, it just gets sent out, and all those reminders happen automatically within Ignition. But Kanas, let me know how you're feeling with people.
Yeah, no, I think this I think this podcast comes at a very opportune time, in the season here. There's still days left to actually get out there and engage your clients. And what's interesting to me is, I speak to our sales team and I speak to our customers, new customers, and what I often hear is, when December hits, January hits, I don't have time to implement this new technology. Okay, well, what's your objective? Well, I'm looking to automate and I'm looking to save time. Okay, what's causing you the biggest sort of friction point in doing that? Well, I have to get I have to communicate with all my clients. I have to get it out the door. I want to get some sort of scope of work out the door. And so it's always, to me, we hear the word automation, we hear the word workflow, and I challenge some of the prospects, especially at events, to say, like, well, where is that leaky sieve in your workflow? And they have a hard time defining it. And so when I hear that it's this time of year and they're really busy trying to communicate and get those comms out to clients, it's, you have to stop looking at the way things were done. And technology isn't just, Zoom, or it isn't just like looking for that thing that'll help you, pay a bill. It's much more than that. And I think if you are able to take a step back right now and say, okay, this is the process that I'm having the headache, there's dividends down the road. So it's going to be a little bit of that upfront pain, but if you implement now, say something like Ignition, you're going to reap those benefits through the season and postseason.
And it goes way beyond that. I mean,
Mhm.
so, I mean, and Don Broll and I, because we've been planning for next week's webinar. So,
Yep.
I mean, you have, for the audience, so you have all your 1040 clients, right? It's worth taking half a day, set it up, get everyone loaded in. You're going to carve hours and hours off your time. But again, it goes beyond that. So one is, yeah, we have the engagement letter for the return prep.
Mhm.
In there, Dawn put all of her 1040 and all of her prep templates and pricing. We have started loading all of our stuff in. So for instance, liens, non-filers, all of that stuff, the letter that I would tell you, if you have a non-filer, to explain the process, you don't have to draft that letter. It's loaded into Ignition. You literally can go and just send that to them.
Yeah.
One, you've just saved hours of trying to explain it to them, going back and forth through email. Our pricing is now loaded in. Over the next 2 weeks, we're going to be loading in all of our engagement letters are going to be loaded in, offers and compromise, all of the other services in the rep arena will get loaded in. So one is, it's, yes, the onboarding for the tax season, which of course is the thing that's staring you in the face right now. But there's a lot of other stuff going on this tax season. For instance, if you have S corps or C corps, the IRS has made it very clear they're going after reasonable comp. And if you haven't heard my horror story about Bob, you can go listen to that, where they went after Bob for preparer penalties because the clients didn't take reasonable comp. We ultimately won $25,000 in legal fees later. So all of those letters the correspondence that you should be sending is loaded in. So one, you don't have to create it. Two, you can schedule it, and Ignition will follow up with it. So at the very least, you can now focus. My feeling on this, and I've been a big proponent of this, there's no reason tax season has to be till midnight 6 days a week. I don't. No, I mean, in all honesty, if you can automate this aspect, and there are other ways of automating the data input. I mean, if you would implement your technology and utilize it, I don't understand why. I mean, we have some tax rep members that have told me they're home. Maybe it's 7 p.m., not 5, but they have gone to keeping their hours fairly regular.
Yes.
Because if you can carve out all of the hours and get that time back, now focus on important things. And again, their correspondence is important, but let's be honest, no one listening to this is like, you know what I love most about tax season is all the letters I have to send. Right? It's one of those pains in the neck that you just have to do because people like me are beating you over the head that if you don't have it in writing, you don't get this stuff in writing, you're in trouble.
Yeah,
it
doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Here's a neat tidbit, and we've mentioned Don Brolin. We're all friends with Don, okay, which is amazing. And Eric, yeah, who isn't? Yeah. And Eric, I want to thank you for partnering with us because the resources you're bringing in really do make a toolkit for tax season for our preparers, whether it's IRS representation, tax preparation, or both. But one neat thing, Don Brolin, longtime friend, we were speaking in West Virginia at an event, and she was kind of hanging around like, hey, like tax season is just such a pain. Well, I'm not going to say exactly what she said, but I think you get the sentiment of the words of choice. And her and I were just hanging out. We're sitting there on it's like a wall, a stone wall. It's this beautiful place in West Virginia. I'm like, listen, just download it on me. What's your problems? Like, what's your problems? So we had a lot of problems, but we narrowed it down to her and I both combined. But it was this engagement letter process. And exactly what you're talking about, Eric. And so, a couple years back, Dawn implemented Ignition. She loves the videos. Okay. She does the bulk proposals. She's implemented it with QuickBooks Online. She's kind of contending with Pro Connect. We know it's a new kid on the block. Yes, it's my genre, my generation. I know you're there, Kanas. I know you get the new kids on the block reference. And I know you do too, Eric.
Story this morning, walking my dog, and there was an NKOTB shirt in the window.
No, there wasn't. Oh my God, that's hilarious. But here's the latest thing. So I just had a chat with my friend there, Dawn, as we all have. And she goes, you know what, Jenny? During tax season, I now work 6 hours a day. And now that was my chance to say something a little audacious. I'm like, what the? And I'm like, really? She goes, yeah, I work 6 hours a day during tax season because I have this technology set up. And her phrase now is, it's not tax season, it's softball season. For those who know Dawn, she's into softball. She's working 6 hours a day during tax season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, it's well, and one other headache that at least we have. We actually discovered we had different people sending out different engagement letters with some of them were missing particular language. And what happens is somebody went and edited a letter for a particular situation, didn't realize it. Someone else grabs a sample of that letter. The thing I like about this, as we're implementing it, is everyone's using the same pricing. We're all, again, partners may edit and adjust, but at the end of the day, everyone's working off the same templates.
Exactly.
Because
you have a source of truth.
What's dangerous about that is, what are we promising exactly? I mean, I'm getting nervous when people are sending out the door, and what are we telling people we're going to deliver, and how we're going to charge for that? And on more than one occasion in the last 10 years, we've gotten stuck doing work that we're not going to get paid for.
Because you put it in the engagement.
Well-meaning, but didn't word things properly. And now, like for instance, I never say, I'll solve your tax problem. We will represent you in attempting to solve your tax problem. I can't guarantee I can solve it. And
that's an open scope, because one tax problem turns into another tax problem, and all of a sudden you're the tax problem solution from now until eternity.
and it's a problem. Now ProConnect, because you touched on that, you're now integrating with, I believe, correct?
Yeah, you're right on the money there, Eric. And it's we're really, I come from Intuit, and I know what it is to partner with Intuit, and sort of the benefits that you can bring to like a large vendor of that size, and what it obviously does for us. But what it does for the customers is ultimately what we're most excited about. And that's really around connecting that universe of the ProConnect and QuickBooks Online, and then having Ignition almost as that conduit between the two, so you can actually get that ecosystem humming. So we're able to, you can filter clients by return type. You can send tax proposals to multiple clients in bulk using our templates. And once the client signs the proposal, Ignition basically automatically raises the invoice, collects the payments, and marks that paid in QuickBooks Online. So it's a heck of a virtuous circle there, and really, really proud of the work that we've done, and also just working with the Intuit crew. So when you think about tax season, therein lies, like, the integration is the key, and you can see that automated flow happen from the proposal all the way through to completion. So again, it's the end-to-end cycle.
And it saves the duplicate entry.
Exactly. Yeah. We don't want siloed information, right? We want, like, the biggest thing I hear from accounting peers is like, I just want it to flow. I want it to connect. These are words we're using. What Matt has just described here is it's a full circle of data and billing and payments. So the monkey work of admin, you don't need to invest in that outside of Ignition. We literally take that admin work for you, handle it. We follow up with the client if they haven't paid. We follow up with the client if they haven't signed the bloody engagement letter. And it creates a really in sync piece. The other thing I think, which is really neat, is most of us get on hold with the IRS, right? Or on hold with something. Now, we're not going to go into the wait times of IRS. We're not doing that. That's a different podcast that Eric's going to not do a different day. But that's our time. And I don't know about y'all, but I can always make more money, but I can't make more time. And so using this feature called instant billing, I just heard of another customer doing this. Hey, she's on the wait time with the IRS again, let's say 3 hours. Not uncommon. Not going to say it, like, not uncommon. Once she's done that call and she finally has the information she needs, she goes into Ignition and does the instant bill for those 3 hours. So a lot of us have been worried about the engagements and not being paid properly. We're no longer leaving that chunk of money on the table. We're being billed for our time, and we should.
And, I wanted to go back, Eric, to something you were saying about your firm and being on the same page based on, the engagement, the proposals, everything there, the language is common. I was speaking with one of our peers in the tax world, and what he started doing several years ago, and this is the term that we're hearing a lot more these days, just like, how are you packaging your services, and then how are you pricing against that package? So he broke out his tax work into its constituent parts, right? Okay, like, this is, I'm going to do the tax prep, but there's also a lot of the pre-work that you got to get done. So you're getting the financial statements prepared. That's going to take a couple phone calls. I'm going to have to basically chase this person. So he's building out every aspect of his tax work down to, what do I get a bill for that? And so if you look at the 3-tier options, he's putting very specifically, say in the lowest tier, you can have 2 phone calls with me and 3 email correspondences. The middle tier, that goes up and then up. So all the services that he's going to be offering, it's going to expand, but time with the actual accountant is expanding as well. So again, you're not having someone who's maybe new to the firm come in and say, yeah, like you were saying, we're going to solve your tax problems and there we go. Or I'm going to answer the phone every time you call. Now it's very much governed internally and externally how that tax year is going to govern. And that has long-term effects on the firm around bandwidth, around cash flow, around profitability at the end of the year, all of that. So it was a great insight in speaking with him to say, okay, you know what? As we move to more advisory services, it's not just the basic tax prep, it's everything that goes into it in filing. So that was a really cool insight. And again, Ignition helps you manage that against the scheduling and everything else in between.
What's interesting, and I think Jennie may have mentioned it, it kind of flew by. Dawn had sent a letter on a client we were working on. I needed her to do some reconstruction, in accounting. And there was a video she had embedded with it. And the client is the one who brought it to my attention. Like, oh yeah, I watched the video. What video? And so Dawn sent it to me, and you can record a short video and send that out to the client, which is I don't know about you, but it is often easier to just record a voice memo and send it than sitting there trying to explain it to somebody over the phone, or even worse, type it into email. How does that work? I mean, for the audience that has, let's say, who has not used Ignition, how does that work, and what do you see users doing with those videos?
Yeah, I can take that if that's okay, Kanas. Yeah, video is such a huge component of the Ignition platform. Being an accounting professional and tax pro myself, I can give someone a letter of engagement and I can write out, a huge email, and it's the deer in the headlights look, right? That gets very glossy. If I were to do a video, they get it. And people learn different ways. People understand things different ways. So within Ignition, we use different mediums. We even have the ability to upload a brochure, if that's even helpful too. But that video is really golden in the sense that you can use it a couple of different ways. So I would say for my tax preparers that are, sending out, let's say 300 bulk proposals in like 3 minutes with Ignition, legit can happen, by the way. You probably are not going to create a customized video for all of those engagements. So you would do like a boilerplate, like Don Brolin did it this year. Hey guys, welcome to, the 2023 tax season. Good news, you made it. I fired a bunch of clients I didn't like. Literally, she did that this year. It was hilarious. And she'll go through a couple of things about what that particular bulk proposal experience is like. And that goes out the door. And there's also a next steps video once they digitally sign that pops up that will tell them, hey, upload your stuff to share file, book a meeting, whatever. The other medium to use it, Eric, is if you're doing high value work, which is IRS representation, you're probably not going to put out a boilerplate kind of video. You can do something a little bit more customized because let's face it, they're cranking out a lot of cash for your expertise. She'll probably say something like, hey, Mr. Smith, I completely understand your situation. You need an offer and compromise. Get me all this information. maybe you talk through, like with my Loom videos, I'll share screen the actual proposal in Ignition and kind of walk through what each section means, especially when I say, I need you to put in your payment information before we get started. So there's different ways to use video. You can outsource it to a production firm if you want, but I'd say the more personal you are to your brand and your firm's brand, the more you're going to win business.
I would actually suggest for the audience listening, this is something you want to do because, at least in my world, people want to see me. They want to talk to me. They want to drink my coffee, breathe my air. And these days, because of, I have clients from all over the world. So most of my clients I've never met. We might meet over Zoom. So I actually think if what we're looking at doing is I'm actually recording basic videos in explanation, but what I'm going to record is more of an intro for that particular client and then send them the one on offers, the one on installment agreements, reasonable comp, whatever it is. You can, this is a great thing to do like on a Sunday, record this stuff. You have it all set to go and I don't have to send it. Nicole, all right, we're doing an offer and compromise for Mr. Smith, can take that video and send it where I can say, hey, I just want to walk you through, as we discussed, sort of what the basics are, how an offer works. And what we're really saying is why you're in the right place, why you've come to the right firm. So everything from the automated follow-up to, especially if you have a large prep practice, to load all of this up in advance. And again, my big thing is you're going to price. Now, what we're going to hear pushback about, someone's going to email me, I don't know how much I'm charging till after I do the return. Yeah, but you know what? It's not going to be less than last year. So at the very least, I'm billing for last year. I can always send a follow-up bill for the additional Schedule E or whatever it was that happened. Here's the deal. Come May, you should not be chasing receivables and sending bills.
No.
Anything, that is correct.
You don't hit the send button. You don't hit the send button until I don't hit the send button until Mr. Green got Mr. Green. So because remember, you have signed this return as paid preparer. The fact that you weren't paid, that's your problem.
That's irrelevant to the IRS. Exactly.
Now, I will tell you, I have, on behalf of clients who are accountants, I have sent letters to, by the way, I don't actually think this is an ethical thing to do. Years and years ago, I actually sent a couple letters out and they went like this. Dear Mr. Smith, who didn't pay, my client, Joe CPA, prepared your return and signed as paid preparer. To date, we have not been paid. If we are not paid within 10 business days, we're sending a letter to the IRS revoking our signature from your return. And then in bold and underline, I would say, to the extent this triggers an IRS or state audit, we will not be held responsible. And if you need us, that would be a separate engagement, of $10,000 money up front, right? All of them paid immediately. Now, I ran that by somebody and they said, I don't think that's ethical to do. No, because the truth is you can't revoke your signature. I mean, if you send a letter like that to the IRS, they're going to throw it in the garbage. It does get you paid. Better yet.
Effective. It's effective.
Very effective. Hired goons.
but don't, how about this? Let's not even get involved with it. Let's just get paid up front.
Don't go set yourself up. We all say this to our kids and everyone else. Set yourself up for success, right? Yep.
Right. And success to me is I have cash to pay all my bills and all my people that worked in whatever else.
Exactly.
The other thing is, as this is kind of not an Ignition thing, but prices go up every year. I don't know about, for the folks listening, I don't know about your world, but where I am, everything goes up. The rent goes up. My staff want raises for some fucking reason. The creamer goes up. The coffee goes up. The fucking supplies go. Everything goes up. Why are we the exception to, or why are you the exception to that? Everything goes up, right? Yeah. And if you're one of these people that's too busy, you're going to really raise everybody. You're going to raise them until a third of them go away.
Yeah.
Right. So that way you do. And then, Dawn and I have done have this discussion. You'll do more work. You'll make more money doing less work. And how much do you raise them? Well, how much do you like them? Well, I don't really like. They get some pretty steep raises. Sadly, some of them will still pay and come back, but the hope is that you'll show those people the door. But the point is, at the end of the season, or let's say the end of April 15th, you've collected the bulk of your money. Yeah, there are going to be some balances here and there for some additional work or whatever, but the vast majority of your money should be in the door. In the old days, I'm going to show my age. When people would come to pick up their return to mail and sign there in the office, the old practitioners I knew, you showed up with a check or you didn't leave with your return.
100%.
What we're talking about is the same thing. Until it's paid. Now, in a perfect world, you do the work, you'd send them the invoice, they pay, and then you'd hit send. Everyone listening to this knows that's not practical. It's April 14th, it's 11:59 p.m. I mean, who's going to have time to get an invoice? And now the person's not going to sign it. Do you hit send? Are they going to be late? Do you put them on extension? No. When the engagement letter goes out, last year's invoice plus your increase goes with it. We're not prepping the return until we're paid. If I'm not getting paid, I don't know about you, there's a lot of other shit I'd rather be doing than sit here doing returns. I could sit at home and watch football or whatever. All right. So that goes out, we get paid. If we don't worry about it. Ignition's going to follow up with them. That's the beauty of it. All right. So Ignition goes and keeps annoying them until they sign the letter and pay. If they're not going to sign and pay, great. That's work we don't have to waste our time doing.
Exactly.
I can work with the people that actually are going to do stuff for us. And this way, at the end of tax season, you've saved all those hours of sending stuff and chasing people. You've gotten the bulk of your money. I'd guess 95% of it in. And, you're going to feel way better whether you kill yourself or not. You're going to feel way better about killing yourself when you can look at the bank account.
Yeah.
100%.
Well, and that's it.
How many accounts will tell me in August they're trying to get invoices out? Why?
Yeah, we saw that at QB Connect. We had one individual that had an invoiced in 4 months and was ashamed. And I said, there's no shame in this game, but let's stop the bleeding. Let's put a process in. And yeah, like you said, Eric, take that Sunday and do it. Do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of things there. Like, exactly. Like first and foremost, we do want to make sure we're paid first. And that's really triaging our clients. Eric, you wrote about this in your How to Build $1 Million Tax Practice. Pardon me if I didn't get that exact title done.
No,
correct.
You're there.
But you put this in there. And I know you didn't use the word triaging, but it's like, look at your clients and categorize them by A, B, C, D, fire the Ds, right? And when you think of your 3 proposal options, think of that as your A, B, and C clients, right? Really speak to that. Those who select the A package get the A1 priority, et cetera, et cetera. And being paid upfront is not something we should be ashamed of doing. I can't walk out of Starbucks without paying first. I can't get on a flight and go to California without paying for it months in advance. And it's still a crowded plane. But, there's precedence there to do that. And I think all of that is very clear. Wrapping it into, these engagements that we have as templates, we're standardizing the process. We know that we're control freaks, we're accounting professionals. There's no way of getting around this, right? But standardizing the process is important, but still creating the avenue for a little bit of creativity and modifying to the client's needs. We can absolutely do that in Ignition. So we've done the hard work for you. We have Eric's templates. We have letters of engagements that are in there. We have workflows set up with QuickBooks Online and ProConnect. Heck, if you're using QuickBooks Online for repeating invoices, I know you're out there. I know you're doing it. I know I did it. We now have the capability where we can go into your QuickBooks file, pull that out, and create an engagement for you. So if you're worried about getting started, don't be. Matt and his team have worked so hard to make sure that it is easy for you to get started, and all you need to do is talk to an expert on our team.
Yeah, and I'll add there, Jenny, that Eric was talking about getting paid up front, which we advocate for, and we hear more and more that tax professionals are going that route. And then price increases. So we have, we can automate that price increase year over year. And going back to Don Brolin, I mean, and speaking with Don, I think it was at Connect, and also on our Gary V webinar that we hosted late last year. One of the things that stuck with me that she said was with Ignition now, I'm taking the emotion out of the price increase, because before it used to be like a drawn out sort of explanation or a client meeting and so forth. Now, and to your point, Eric, and what Jenny was just saying, everybody raises prices each and every year. I know like clockwork that all my streaming subscriptions, I'm going to get that email, we're raising prices, it's happening. So it's just part of the gig now, right? And so and we have to do it. I was just talking to the guy who owns the gym that I go to. He's afraid to raise prices. And I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to start going down the Ignition path here and give you all the webinars from the past year as to why you should be doing it. And you can automate this. And by taking the emotion out of it, you're going to see those people, like you said, Eric, you're going to be working less time, making more money. And I'd like to add to that, with the clients you probably enjoy working with and want to see success from, right? And so they value you. They're not raced to the bottom. They're like, yeah, I'm sticking with you because you've stuck with me. And we've just been through a pandemic, we're post-pandemic, and we're figuring all this stuff out. I trust you. And those are the people you want. And they're gonna
exactly.
And we've done stuff on relationship pricing and all of that. And here's what it really comes down to. I think most preparers the fun stuff is the advisory, is the planning. Here's the problem, at least in the US, we have a few very large prep companies that have commoditized it. So there's a segment of the population that I just bring in my paperwork, you put it in the software, and we're done, right? That's the relationship. And so there's an opportunity, if you can automate, free up your time, focus on the clients who are your A clients, and start meeting with them multiple times a year, actually providing real benefit in planning and all of that. And now, again, we get into those templates that we've built out, where all this stuff already exists. But when Dawn Brolin tells me she can get rid of 60% of her clients and double her income,
yeah,
because you have clients now that you say, look, this is how we need to work together. The good clients will get it, right? I get it. Let's do that. Versus, well, I just want to show up in April and get my return done. You know what? You would be happier somewhere else.
Yeah, that's basic compliance stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like there's no relationship in the basic compliance.
No. I mean, if you've got only a W-2 and you're renting an apartment, honestly, you would be better off going to an H&R Block. There are 28,000 of them. Go have fun. That is not a good use of our time. But most accountants end up with those people because, Jenny, I don't know when you were starting out. When I started, now it was law practice. I was driving anywhere to meet with anyone to do anything, because I just needed to pay the bills. There were times.
Oh, yeah.
I would go on Saturday to the P.O. box. The retainer check showed up. I would get all the work done Saturday night and Sunday, because on Monday I needed to collect that because I had to pay my mortgage.
Yep.
The good old days.
I'll one up you. I had the babies in the bassinet, and I drive to the locations, get them to sign the tax return, get the check. Drive. Yeah. No, totally. We don't need to do that anymore.
I would join my dad, who is a dentist, and I would go on Saturdays and Sundays some morning, and we would knock on people's front doors because I hadn't paid them yet. So it extends across all the professions, it would seem.
Yeah, no, in fact, I have a very funny story, and I just saw her on LinkedIn. I have a friend of mine, Caroline, here in Connecticut, who will forever be one of my favorite people. And I'll tell you the story. So I got introduced to this young couple, didn't have wills and everything. They were flying to Europe, like in a week and a half. He had, now at the time, the estate tax in the US was anything over 600,000. They had $1 million of term life insurance each.
Mhm.
So I said, look, wills, we do revocable trusts, living wills, durable powers of attorney. $1,500 was what I was charging for the whole, which was dirt cheap for the whole package.
Yeah, I'd say.
And he was like, is that really necessary? Blah, blah. I explained it to him. Okay. Gives me the check for $750. I run home, do all the work because I need the money. I think the next day in the bank, the money got pulled. They had put a stop on the check and pulled the money out.
Mhm.
And I called them, said, did the check bounce? Whatever. No, we're being ripped off. This is bullshit. I'm not paying for this, whatever. I'm going somewhere else. We only need wills, $300.
Wow.
Meanwhile, so I'm pissed about this. On Monday, I spoke with my friend Carolyn, and I was bitching about this, and she said, "Wait a minute, is this a couple?" She described where they live that are flying to Europe, and I said, "Yes," and she said, he's in my BNI. It's I don't know if they have this in Canada. BNI is a business networking.
Yep, absolutely.
She's like, he's coming in to just do wills. They're sitting in my waiting room. And I said, well, listen, I don't want to take business from you, but they've got $1 million each of life insurance. And I told her I did all the work. He pulled the money out of my account. She said, Eric, I'm going to take care of this right now. All right.
Wow.
And, apparently, so she tells me what happened. They come in and he starts in on, we got sent to this lawyer and he wanted to do these trusts. And she said, well, wait a minute, trusts. Okay, you own your home. She started going through the whole thing with him, said, life insurance. And when they said we have $1 million, she's like, you have a taxable estate. I can't do this. You need to go see an estate planner. She said his wife would have murdered him had she not been in the room. So they as a group call me about a half hour later and he apologizes to me. And I said, look, I've got the stuff. I'll have to redate it and whatever else. I said, look, and he said, I'll send you the 1,500. I'll put it in the mail today. I said, let's call him Dave. Dave, I appreciate that. We're not going to get this done before tomorrow, before you fly. Execute the documents with Carolyn. When you get back, we'll put these in place. Hopefully nothing happens to you. If so, yeah, you got a tax issue, but let's hope that nothing happens. She got paid. I got paid. And we did their documents. And so I remember every now and then, this is probably 20 years ago. When I do see her, I'm like, you know why you're my favorite? She's like, it's enough already. This story. Talk about just random coincidence, but
yeah. But
anyway.
lesson learned, if you got money ahead of time, that wasn't like you paid by ACH, direct debit in Canada. Credit card, we make it easy. Apple Pay now, oh my gosh. Like there's so many ways. There's so many ways to get paid. And now within our product, I know some of you are you're on this going, yeah, but I don't want to pay credit card fees. I don't. Well, hey, that's okay. We know you don't like to pay credit card fees because, drum roll, you can now charge those credit card fees back to your customer if you wish. So what's the excuse now?
I think, and by the way, for those listening, I think it's perfectly fine to do that. You're giving them the option. They can come down with the check.
Mm-hmm.
They can mail the check. It's knowing you're not hitting the send button until you get the money. But the idea of putting the fees back on them, it's it's a convenience for them. Oftentimes they want to do that because they get points.
100%.
Right?
Yep.
They get their rewards points and whatever else. So you can charge it back to them. But even if you do eat the 2 or 3% or whatever it is, honestly, there is a convenience to knowing you have that money, that the money is there. Basically, I think within 48 or 72 hours, the money is there. You can ACH, you can have them send a check if they send their materials. I mean, there's all kinds of ways to go about this. The point is, one, you want to make sure all your letters are automated, everything is signed. Two, everything needs to be done before you get started doing work, and you want to collect before you hit the e-file send button.
Mm-hmm.
100%.
Right? However you're going to do it. All right. I do know an accountant who's old school. He's a motorcycle enthusiast. He likes to go visit his clients still. And I've warned him, you're gonna have a hard time selling your practice because the next
Yeah.
person in is not going to be a motorcycle enthusiast that wants
They're
to
looking
drive
for
all over.
technology.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
I've
But,
heard that horror story time and time again. Tried to sell, couldn't, and now what we're seeing, Eric, there are brokerages that are coming up
Yep.
as a cottage industry to get firms digital
Mhm.
before retirement sale. And so
100%.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, one of these weird areas I've ended up kind of veering into, actually with Gainer is having members and advising them on what they need to do to make their practice more scalable and saleable.
Mhm.
Sharon Fuller is a friend of mine who runs around speaking on, in fact, I think she might have actually, you know what, I should probably make sure I mention her. She might have actually trademarked scalable and saleable. I think she may have trademarked it.
Mhm.
But yeah, no, there is an industry around that because so many accountants are still not automating, and that's a big issue. When I come in, if you come in to buy the practice, if it's not automated, trying to transition the clients, one, to the automation, two, to a new person,
Mhm.
you know what it is? That is, if I am going to buy it, it's going to basically be on a contingent fee, kind of an earn out, and I'm not putting much cash up front because I just don't
Mhm.
have any sense on what I'm going to keep. Where if I show up and everything is automated, and your clients are used to this, that's a that's nice. That now I can now it's
That
a
has
matter of
value.
just swapping out the individual.
Exactly. Well, it's
Some
like a
folks, some folks will leave, but the vast majority will probably stay. That is a much more valuable practice.
Yeah.
it's like a puzzle piece, right? Like think of the person that's buying the practice, look at their particular tech stack. They want to make sure that puzzle piece coming in at least has some sort of flow. And as, individuals looking to buy practices, first of all, they're looking at people because goodness knows it's so hard to hire people. So they're looking at your people, but they're looking at your processes, or as Don Brolin would correct me, process. You know what I mean? They're looking at that because they want to see things as consistent and flowable as possible, where the transfer of knowledge has happened digitally and is not in your head. So, big, huge thing. And I think one of the biggest things we had mentioned about payments, not starting the work until you get paid, there's an actual toggle feature in Ignition that I toggle on. They literally cannot sign the engagement letter digitally unless they have put in credit card or ACH information. Now you can toggle it off and, Eric, we've had these conversations about charities. We like to pick our charity. So you can toggle it off if you're feeling charitable and wanting to collect that 6 months down the road. But I mandate it. If you're serious about my time and my commitment, then y'all are going to pay me. And it doesn't even kick off into my workflows for the team until they literally put in the information and digitally sign. So these are ways of making those stop go kind of signals for our firm, which is important.
No, absolutely. So just to wrap up, for the folks listening, you still have time. All right. I'm going to try to put a couple links. One is the link. Go take the demo of Ignition. Get this set up. It is worth the investment now. It will pay dividends many times over, year after year after year. Okay. So get it set up now, literally today, tonight, because you want this in place so everything goes out the door for tax season, and that aspect is done. Now, on top of that, you're going to have templates on other stuff. For me, it's rep, Dawn's advisory stuff. It could be audits, sales tax audits, whatever. And by the
Bookkeeping,
way,
payroll, doesn't matter.
if you're an Ignition user and you see something you don't like, let Ignition know and they let us know. I'm working actually one on it. I'm drafting one now for sales tax audits. It came
Good.
from an Ignition user. Kate made me aware of it. I said, we've got those. So we're going to add that. So our library over the next several weeks is going to be expanded. This stuff is there. So one is the automation of the onboarding tax season. Two, it's onboarding for everything, but also sending out the reminders for your mid-year reviews. To those LLC clients, why aren't you an S Corp? We can save you money, and here is what you need to do for reasonable comp. All of this stuff, Ignition, I think, will become the cornerstone of your practice. You probably think of it as your tax prep software, and that's important, but the actual management of the practice is all going to get done right here.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what it does in my firm. It kickstarts the practice. It's the very first stop. It's the very first thing other than that discovery call that the client may have with one of our team members. That's the very first touch point of how that client gets buy-in into our competency and our workflows and our brands. And they're able to make decisions when I'm not in the room because of that stellar proposal process. And then it pushes the information off to every other app in the atmosphere. There's something. We should have some fun with that in the atmosphere.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whoops, we might.
Jennie, like you said, it kicks off that relationship. You've got the Loom video that I know that you're a fan of. Those videos convert proposals at 30% higher rate than just say sending off a written proposal. So it's all there. And like you said, once it's signed, it kicks off the automated workflows that you can connect to Ignition through Zapier and other integrations.
Yeah.
So
Definitely something you can never get out of Word. And I know there's many of us that are still using Word. I spoke main stage at Scaling New Heights, very humble experience about myself losing an engagement because of leveraging Word. It cost me $12,000. And from a work from home mom with a couple of babies at that time, $12,000, I would argue $12,000 means something right now.
Securing in any age. Absolutely.
Like it cost me money. And that's when I realized, oh, my brand is not Word. Word is great for processing data. You know what I mean? You want to do a nice letter or something. I don't know, maybe something different, but that is not where your brand is. You need to make sure you're using something that keeps you compliant, that keeps you paid, that makes sure it's on brand for you. And Word will not do that.
So what I'm going to do is, for everyone listening, I'm going to put a link in the two links in the description. One, go take the demo, sign up, put this in place now. Number two, next Monday, the 15th, doing a webinar with Don Brolin on dealing with correspondence. Some of this you have already heard, but we're going to talk about the use of the videos and the templates and the other stuff, and you'll actually get to see screenshots. So I'll put a link below. It's a free webinar, 1 CPE credit. If you can join us Monday the 15th, that'd be great. If not, sign up anyway. You'll get a link to the recording. You can watch the recording at your, whenever, you feel like it. No, Matt and Jennie, thank you for taking the time. I think what I want to do is do a follow-up after tax season for all of the other services and kind of recap this and now start reminding people all the other stuff we're going to be doing.
Sounds great.
And
Thanks, Eric.
Eric. It's been a pleasure.
All right. No, thank you. And thank everyone for listening, and see you next week on the Tax Rep Network podcast.